Society has a funny way of treating unmarried women in their 40s like they are unfinished projects. You can have a thriving career, a beautiful home, and complete financial independence. Yet, at every family gathering, someone will inevitably look at you, shake their head with a sad smile, and ask,
When, when are you finally going to get married?
if you hear that enough times, you start to believe that your peace is actually loneliness. You start looking for the missing piece to a puzzle that was probably already complete. That was the case of Jenny. Jenny was 42. She had the house in Atlanta, the career, the passport, and the pressure. When she logged onto a dating site and met a man who seemed to say all the right things, she thought her waiting season was over. She thought she had finally found Mr. Right. She had no idea she was actually walking into a trap set by a man who saw her age and her success not as a beautiful life, but as an all access path to the American dream. Let me tell you more about Jennifer. She's a black American woman who worked hard for her slice of the world, but she was tired of doing everything alone. She wanted someone to share the view with. She met David online. He was 34, living in Lagos, Nigeria. David was incredibly charming. He played the part of the mature, grounded man perfectly. He never asked her for money. He talked about his own business ventures. He listened to her talk about her day. He made her feel seen in a way no one had ever done before. She realizes now that there were signs. Small, but definitely there. However, when you want something to be real, your brain has a remarkable way of ignoring the things that do not make sense. Jenny ignored the occasional inconsistencies in his timeline. She ignored how eager he was to discuss the US visa process very early in the relationship. She wanted the fairy tale. After a year of talking, she flew to Nigeria to meet the love of her life. When she arrived in Lagos, David treated her like royalty. His family welcomed her with open arms. His mother called her my daughter. And there was one person who really made Jenny feel at home. David's favorite cousin, who he introduced as Mary. Mary was sweet, attentive, and constantly by Jenny's side. She took Jenny to the market to buy fabric. She helped her negotiate prices. When David and Jenny decided to get married right there in Nigeria, Mary was the one who organized the caterers. Mary even stood right there beside Jenny as her chief bridesmaid on their wedding day.
You look so beautiful. My cousin is so lucky to have a strong woman like you.
When you're
Welcome
far
to the
from home, having another woman take you under her wing is a massive relief. Jenny honestly believed that she was gaining a sister in Mary. The wedding was beautiful. Jenny flew back to Atlanta and started the grueling, expensive process of applying for a spousal visa. It took nearly 18 months, thousands of dollars in legal fees, endless paperwork. Through it all, David called her every day, playing the role of the longing husband who can't wait to be reunited with his dear wife. Finally, the visa was approved. David landed in Atlanta.
Welcome, my love. I'm so happy to
For the
see you.
first year in America, David kept the performance going. He had to. He was in a conditional green card. If the marriage fell apart before the 2 year mark, he could be sent back. So he played house. He got a job. He cooked dinner sometimes. They went on vacations. He was the sweetest husband. He was more than Jenny ever imagined. But as they got closer to that 2 year mark, the point where he could apply to remove the conditions on his residency, things started to change. The warmth evaporated. He started working late. He put a passcode on his phone. He started taking long whispered calls in the guest room. When Jenny asked him about it, he would gaslight her. He told her she was being paranoid. He said he was stressed about sending money back to his family at home, especially his cousin Mary, who he claimed was going through a hard time. One Saturday, David left his old iPad on the kitchen island. He had gone to the gym. A notification popped up on the screen. It was an alert from his cloud storage saying that the drive was almost full. Jenny opened it to see what was taking up so much space. And guess what she found? She found a folder named Archive. Inside that folder, there were hundreds of photos. But they were not photos of David and his friends. They were professional wedding photos. I repeat, professional wedding photos. David was wearing a tailored suit, and the bride standing next to him, wearing a white gown and holding a banquet, was Mary. The cousin, her chief bridesmaid, was David's bride. I want to pause here and ask you a question. If you're standing in your own kitchen holding an iPad and you realize that your entire marriage is a carefully orchestrated scam involving a whole family with you as their target, what do you do in that exact moment? Do you scream? Do you throw the iPad out? Do you pack his bags and throw it out on the lawn? What do you do? Because I don't know what I would have done. But let me tell you what Jenny did. Jenny went completely cold. The woman who held her train at her wedding was her husband's actual wife. Jenny was never a bride. She was a business transaction. When David walked through the door that day, Jenny was sitting at the table with the photos pulled up on the screen. She asked him to explain. She expected him to panic. She thought he would drop to his knees, cry, or at least try to invent a lie. Instead, David looked at the screen, let out a heavy sigh, and looked at her with absolute indifference.
You were 40 and lonely. I gave you a husband for a year. You should be thanking me.
The absolute arrogance. He looked at a woman who had opened her home, spent her hand-earned money, and offered him her heart, and told her she should be grateful he used her. David thought he was smart. He thought that because they were legally married in the US, Jenny would be too embarrassed to do anything. He thought she would just quietly divorce him and let him keep his status. But you may be wondering, how did he even get away with it? How do you marry two people legally? Well, usually they lie on the sworn affidavit of bachelorhood in Nigeria. They claim they've never been married before because their first wedding was traditional and not registered with the court. But David had made a mistake. He had registered his marriage to Mary years ago. He thought the systems between Nigeria and the US did not talk to each other. He thought it was invisible, but he was so wrong. Jenny knew photos weren't enough for a federal judge. David could just claim that it was ceremonial or a movie or a skit. She hired an aggressive immigration attorney. And this is where it gets real. Her attorney worked with investigators on the ground in Lagos. They didn't just look for Mary, they went to the local marriage registers, they searched the archives, and they found it. The original stamped legal marriage certificate between David and Mary. When that document landed on Jenny's desk in Atlanta, the game was over. That is bigamy. That is a crime in both countries. David's arrogance completely vanished when the federal government knocked on his door. He tried to claim Jenny was an abusive spouse, trying to ruin his life. He tried every trick in the book. It did not work. His conditional status was revoked. He was placed in removal proceedings and eventually sent back to Nigeria. Welcome back, David. We really need to talk about the pressure society puts on women to be married. That pressure is exactly what predators like David look for. They scan dating apps looking for kind women who have been told that their lives are incomplete without a man. David weaponized Jenny's desire for family. He knew she wanted it badly, that she would overlook the small warning signs. But we also have to talk about the danger of forcing a fairy tale. Online dating connects us to the entire world, but it also connects us to people who have spent years perfecting a script. When someone seems entirely too perfect, when there is no friction, no flaws, and they treat you like a deity before they even know your middle name, that is not likely a romance movie. That is a job interview, and you're the employer they are trying to con. Jenny learned to be content with her life, exactly as it is. A quiet house in Atlanta is 1,000 times better than a house filled with someone else's lies. Jenny, I know it hurts you a lot to talk about this. I know you look back and wonder how you missed it, but you have to stop judging yourself for having a good heart. You did not fail. You operated in good faith. They operated as a criminal syndicate. You gave love, they gave deceit. But the moment you saw the truth, I love what you did. You stood up, you fought back, and you sent him exactly where he belonged. I want to ask everyone in the comment section to be kind. It's very easy for you to say what you would have noticed or what you would have done watching this from the outside. But the real life is messier than that. If you have a story you want to share, whether it is about the dating fraud, family disputes, or anything you just want to get off your chest, send an email. You'll see the address on my homepage. I'll change your name and protect your identity. Now I want to ask you, have you ever felt the pressure to settle down? And did it ever make you ignore a red flag you otherwise would have noticed? Let's talk about it in the comments.